For this morning comes from the Gospel according to Luke in the 12th chapter. Please stand as you are able for the reading of the Gospel. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, and unfailing treasure in heaven where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be dressed for action and have your lamps lit. Be like those who are waiting for their master to return from the wedding banquet, so that they may open the door for him as soon as he comes and knocks. Blessed are those slaves whom the master finds alert when he comes. Truly, I tell you, he will fasten his belt and have them sit down and eat, and he will come and serve them. If he comes during the middle of the night or near dawn and finds them so, blessed are those slaves. But know this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour. This is the wisdom of God. We all know the adage that if you want to make God laugh, tell God your plans. I think if God saw my plans, it would be more of a smirk. God, your plans can be disrupted at any moment. You know, I really didn't expect upon facing retirement to be looking for a house, particularly in this market. Do you know that in Snohomish County, the average house is going for, let's see, where did I write that down? $755,000. I can maybe afford half of that? I think I said last time, a few times ago, about a mobile home. We might have to do that, but Darren doesn't like the mobile home idea. He says to me, why is it that you buy something and still pay rent? The same can be said for HOAs. Do you know what some of the HOAs are? $400 to $500 a month. Ooh. In my mind, I guess I have to say I believe we're all just renting. Home ownership was not necessarily a part of my American dream. And I kind of wonder what the preacher of Ecclesiastes would say about that. See, I have in my head this story of Ananias and Sapphira. You all remember that story. They bought a piece of land, and they held on to a little portion of it for themselves and didn't give it all to the community. Then they went before Peter, and Peter said, why did you do that? And they died. Just like that. A week ago on the same day, after Aaron bought a car, before Aaron bought a car, I was online to find a car for him, to find a house, and also maybe get a date. All on the same day. That's not how you approach retirement, is it? Things should be solid by now, but things are not. They're up in the air. But you know, I'm not alone in being in this insecure place. We're all in insecure times, are we not? I don't know why they have to add all this other stuff to it, like UFOs and stuff. We have enough. We have enough. The government does not feel secure. Democracy is being questioned. I'm terrified that if Trump gets elected again. Did you all see the ad of Dick Cheney for his daughter Liz? If you don't, go find it. We have a war in Ukraine still, and now the effect is that people are starving because so much of the grain is not able to get out. We have anxiety about Putin because he has access to nuclear weapons. In the Seattle Times this past week, there was an article in which the UN Secretary General was quoted saying, just one more misunderstanding, one miscalculation away from nuclear annihilation. That's pretty insecure. If that's not enough, we have natural disasters everywhere telling us what? Climate change isn't something that's coming, it's here. Looking at houses, I found a house that was right on the Skagit River. I mean, this was plush. It had a patio out there. You just sit and look at the river. Am I buying that house? No. People also, I've noticed, move away. This is normal. When there's an insecure time, people tend to question where they're at, and they choose different things. Relationships can be dissolved, and this creates also insecurity. Our healthcare system, is it secure? Aaron was scammed out of thousands of dollars by a counselor. And my counselor does not accept Medicare, so I have to pay the full rate. It's nuts. The American dream is about acquiring security, and we attach to that certain things: a house, a good paying job, a family, a couple kids, 3-car garage, standard time for vacation, and of course, a dog. Just listing those things gives me comfort. I think of the comfortable furniture, the big screen TV, plush pillows, not from the pillow guy. And you know, it always helps to have a few stuffed animals around, even if you don't have kids. A small oasis in a mesmerizing world. After my mother died, and we sold the house, I had a wave of insecurity, because I realized how much of my security was attached to that house that they'd have for 40 years. Particularly when I was overseas or somewhere else, I always said, oh, I get to go home, but then it doesn't exist anymore. It's a very different perspective when there is no home and there is no family. Of these things that I listed for security, it's down to the dog. And when your security is taken down to the dog, it's really rough. Rough. We learn eventually, we hope, that there is no definitive security in any of these things. They can be gone at any time. Building a sense of security on our own is what the preacher called chasing after wind. Now, this is all to give a little perspective on what Luke is talking about. They were living in insecure times. The early Christian communities had still survival on their minds, which is the floor bed for security. It's in the context that when Jesus says, go sell all your possessions, that's always a shock, isn't it? Just go sell everything. Because those possessions in the mind of Luke are what blocks security. After a person sold their possessions, it wasn't like they were homeless. They weren't ostracized, which was one of the greater fears. Ananias and Sapphira were ostracized. Quite the opposite. They gave up their possessions, and then they were invited into the community, which didn't have any private property, and they had nothing to tempt them to chase after wind. This is what Luke's mind was. Wealth and riches were viewed as detrimental to one's spiritual life. Disposing of one's wealth was self-help. The community brought security in the way a family could not, because the family was tied to the Roman ideal of the patriarchal family. For us, family remains the basic agent of belonging and security. It wasn't for them. And this makes it difficult when a family, in our experience, loses somebody. For us, the family is the basic agent of belonging, and that means that the family is vital. One of the great hypocrisies, I think, in America is that we view the family this way as a basic block of security, but then we don't support it, particularly for poor children. Rather, what we preach in America is take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. I can tell you what that does, I think particularly for young men in this culture, is to flounder. Thinking, I can't do it by myself. Not having any security, thinking they have to do it all on their own. It's a recipe for mental illness, addiction, and suicide. The author of Ecclesiastes, I think, means, how do I put this? Remember when Ecclesiastes says it's better to go to the house of mourning than feasting, because it opens our eyes to the reality and the futility of life and gives us a sense that our security only comes from God. Everything else is chasing after wind. It's misguided to think we can find security by ourselves. Security is about dependencies, not accomplishments. I'll take care of myself. I'll make my own religion. Have you heard that? I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious, which means I have my own religion. But then the C word comes along, and when that happens, you don't want to be by yourself anymore. Think of the rich man who had so much he didn't know what to do. He had to build barns for that, and Jesus' response to them is, "You fool, you will die tonight." Take care of your soul by giving all of that away. Thus, wherever your treasure is, that's where your heart will be. And we are challenged to ask ourselves, where does our security come from? Then Luke asked us to be watchful, to know when the master might come. When feeling insecure in our individualistic world, we have to check the bank and our other holdings, and that gives us a sense of control and some sense that we can do it by ourselves. While in other cultures pressed with insecurity, the person will seek other people, humbly, seek alliances and connections. But in our culture, it's generally about personal control. Have we all known a person who's a little controlling? I believe Save the Steal and QAnon is all about power and control. The opposite of go sell all your possessions and give our alms is gain control and power. God doesn't want us to seek control. There's no security in personal control. God wants us to become more aware of ourselves, aware of other people, aware of other cultures, aware of the pain and suffering of others, even become aware of the feelings of the American dream dog, who gets cancer too. Last week, we had some friends visit us we hadn't seen in a long time, Katie and Ed Contreras. Katie was a longtime member of the band, and their family were longtime members. And they said to me, they found a church in St. Paul, and it is reconciling. And they want to transfer. And I was overjoyed. So I look back at ministry over the years. I think there's one thing I didn't pay enough attention to, and that was finding a church for somebody who leaves us. We can easily do it. It's all online. I'm very happy for Katie and Ed. I wish I'd stressed the importance of finding another church community wherever you go. Many in our world move, sometimes frequently. People too often live in the same place as people often do not live in the same place as their family. And they miss them, and they miss that sense of belonging and security. Community plays a vital role in giving people a sense of security. Through community, and as it expands our vision to see the greater connection to God. I say this in a time in America where people are not joining anything. In regard to religion, that too has become a personal matter because we have our freedom, so we can create anything for ourselves, including our own spirituality, and we think our own security. But sometimes life gets in the way. On Friday, I found an interesting book at the Everett Library entitled All the Ways Our Dead Still Speak by a funeral director named Caleb Wilde. He writes about funerals or memorial services being times of community and connectedness. And I guess I will say that. If you've been to a memorial service, you feel the community and the connectedness. He also likes this word, liminality, which means being on the threshold between two places. In his case, it means being in the afterlife and being here. He says this: death offers liminal experiences. We like to think that the living are totally alive and the dead totally dead, but it's not like that. When someone dies, part of us dies with them. And even though they're dead, part of them is still alive. The dead are alive in us. And part of our life dies with the dead. In an individualistic society, everything is about individual awards, accomplishments, salaries, and possessions. It's mine because I earned it. But we are living cemeteries. We are not entirely our own. We have been carried here by the love, the hard work, and the heritage of our ancestors. Their love lives in us. Their work carries us. We are theirs and they are ours. Ironically, the more we try to find security on our own, the more insecure we will be. This is because the very formation of who we are is communal. Those ancestors are still with us. From a bigger perspective, let me say again, we're all just renting. We really don't own the property in a cosmic sense, do we? Any sense that we can be in control of our lives is a delusion. It's an arrogance to believe that we can build our own spirituality. For Luke, the security that God offers lives in the community, not in the person. Luke was presenting to the world the gospel of Jesus Christ, the dream of God, not the Roman dream of villas and vast land holdings while people starve. God's dream is not the American dream either of awards, accomplishments, salaries, and possessions. Which do we want? What is our treasure? Amen.